Well, it's always good to be back after going away for a time, no matter how long I've gone or where I've gone. To travel, to visit, to commune. I love experiencing that coming home feeling. One of the changes I made on my trip last week was to make a conscious choice to stay in the now moment in all situations. To be connected to what was happening in that moment, no matter what was going on, no matter who was doing what, no matter who was there, or the experience that was evolving. Whenever my human thinking started to wander off into the future, the what-ifs of negative thinking, I would remind my mind to come back to center, to stay connected to that all-knowing divine presence. Breathe if I had to bring me back into it. To notice what was before me in that moment and to allow life to just unfold in its absolute perfection. And it always did, with delightful results. I'll share some of those with you today. The thing is, the more I was willing to stay connected to Spirit, the more Spirit kept showing up. The more I recognized and welcomed God working through me, the more God provided for and through me. So when you hear the title of today's talk as More, Please, I want to be very clear that it's not just about praying for a life filled with material wealth or experiences solely based on divine principles. It's all that too, for sure. And so much more. Those were the ideas that came to mind when this title was first selected several months ago. In the meantime, it's become blatantly apparent that unless we have a soul connection to the one mind, unless we're consciously plugged in to that infinite intelligence, unless we make the effort to stay connected and in relationship with God, the rest is just not going to happen the way you might think or plan. So that's the real focus for this morning's talk. The connection in spirit. When I suggest we ask, believing for more connection, please, I also ask that you translate it to mean creating a deeper relationship with the divine, a direct relationship with the divine. Now, a few things happened on my journey that really brought this idea of connection to a heightened awareness for me. It started with the synchronicity of finding the perfect parking spot at DIA, to walking right out to the shuttle at Seattle Airport that took me to the car rental building. Everything in perfect timing. I could not have planned it that way any better. The long line at the airport's car rental place gave me time to read my book. Must have been 30 people ahead of me. So along with that, I was praying for the perfect car. That they wouldn't run out, if there would be mine waiting for me. And I did. I got down to the garage, and they looked at my ticket and said, well, we don't have one of those cars, so we have to give you an upgrade at no cost. Oh, darn. Okay. Finding the mall where my daughter and I had arranged to meet. Driving around and around the parking lot, trying to find that spot, so I was somewhat close to where we were supposed to be. And then getting one, which at first I didn't think was so perfect, but it took me right exactly to their doorstep of where they were meeting me. And then the surprise from my granddaughter. I actually called her from about 50 feet away and watched her take my phone call, and we were able to video record it. And then when she realized that, wait a minute, there's a voice coming from somewhere, we made eye contact. That was just the most precious moment of all. My son-in-law's work schedule the next day was Bailey's birthday. His work got canceled so he could come with us for her birthday activities, which he was really excited about being able to participate because he didn't think he was going to be able to. The timing then on Tuesday, my daughter had 2 interviews on Tuesday, And I just happened to be in Seattle with a car to drive her around and take care of the kids while she went to the interview because her husband's at work now. There's no way we could have arranged all of that, all those details necessary for it to unfold the way it did. Absolutely a God thing. We called it spiritual synchronicity. And then last-minute dinner plans, along with my daughter, that resulted in driving a new direction she wasn't familiar with, and neither was I, of course, that ended up being, for her, a shorter shortcut to one of where her jobs might be in the future. She didn't even know the road was there. And it brought us past the Marysville High School property, and we got to see the fence around the property, stuffed with flowers and cards and gifts and stuffed animals. Remembrances of those young people who died a few weeks ago during the school shooting. To pause in silence and respect for their lives and for ours. But then the last day I was there, after a lunch, getting her back to her place of residence and seeing water flowing from everywhere from under their RV, a plumbing chaos. And it was a great distraction for her and the kids, because then they couldn't wallow in the sadness of my departure. I was already late in my schedule of getting to the airport. So she's much more capable of taking care of those things than I am, and I was glad to leave. I left her place a little bit later than I thought. It took almost 2 hours to drive from where we were to the Seattle airport. And I was a little concerned about getting there on time, till I read the departure screen and the plane was delayed 40 minutes. Perfect timing, of course. And while I was standing at the gate, a bit nervous about traveling alone at such a late hour, I started thinking about ways to calm my anxiety. And then I heard an unusual sound, a babbling brook. Somewhere off in the distance, I could hear water. No, it was the water fountain, and people were drinking. And the acoustics in the place were so intense, it actually sounded like a stream flowing every time someone turned the water on. It was wonderful, and it was exactly what I needed, to calm down, to smile, to relax and meditate a little bit, as I prepared for my travel back to Denver, into sub-zero temperatures and winter road conditions. And while I was waiting and listening to the sound of the water, a lot of people were drinking from the fountain. And before boarding the plane or putting my phone away, I posted on social media a prayer request for my truck to start and to get home safely and quickly. You see, I had concern about my truck starting properly. The thought had crossed my mind from time to time during the trip and also before the trip, because when Reverend Mike and I had gone to Anton earlier this year and the truck had sat for 8 days, it didn't start when we got back to the truck. So I had that in the back of my mind. But before I left, I had the battery checked, I had new tires put on, so I had done as much as I could to prepare for the return. But I didn't want to go through that experience again, not in those temperatures, alone, at about 1 o'clock in the morning. So the prayer request gave me a little bit more confidence. And I find great comfort in knowing that people are praying for my highest good. Don't you? I had people around the world praying for me. How cool is that? And I got to be in relationship with Spirit in that consciousness. I got to turn over any lingering fears and doubts and focus on the present moment and just let all that go. And it worked too, of course. So to finish up the epic journey, I got my suitcase from the plane. Nothing was missing or broken. I spent a few minutes in the outside shelter with another couple who were also wanting to get to the parking lot that night. I got to the SUV about 1 o'clock in the morning, and the truck started with the first key turn. The roads were mostly dry, all the way back to Castle Rock, and I was home safe inside and on my way to bed by 2:30. This trip reminded me once again that everything works out for the highest good. My highest good, your highest good. When we stay connected to that divine loving source of all good. When we ask for what we desire, believe we already have it, and are willing to receive it, to welcome the good into our lives, in whatever form it shows up. To raise our mental equivalent and take the next step toward creating the next highest good for ourselves, in partnership with God. This trip also reminded me of how important it is to stay connected with our human family and how much we really do rely on each other. Just like I was dependent on the airline pilots and the crews, and the parking lot shuttle, the car rental agent, the hotel and their staff, my family members to provide directions to where they live or where we were going to meet, the ferry boat operators and the bus drivers, the restaurant servers and the retail clerks, and knowing all of you were back here taking care of things while I was gone. All of these people assisted me on this journey and this experience and this place that I'd never been to before. And I surrendered to life. Spirit, too, is with you every step of your journey to assist you through your path, through your journey. The more you recognize God's presence in your life, the stronger the connection you develop and recognize, the more you ask for guidance, the more you will receive. That spiritual connection, that constant awareness of God in my life, that's the more I want for myself and for you. The material stuff, the rest of the all-abundant good that's available to us, that we desire for ourselves, that's all available, each according to a person's belief and the willingness to receive it. The stronger the connection and the relationship with the divine presence of all life, the stronger your faith will be. You have proof of how it works to expand your experience, that upward spiral of evolution. The more you recognize Spirit working through you, expressing as you, the more God shows up in loving, wondrous, and joy-filled ways. While I was on my trip, I was able to maintain contact with everyone in my life, check emails, make phone calls, send text messages, and post videos and photos and things like that. Technology is a great servant for our communication needs. Again, it's up to us whether and how we use it or allow it to use us. There was one email that arrived about the time I got back. And I want to share it with you because it fits so perfectly in our topic today. It's from a religious science minister who was relating a conversation he had several years ago. He said, I had an interesting conversation with a priest from Ghana. When I explained to him a bit of what we taught as our core concepts, he commented, oh, then you are one of those prosperity churches. Over the long run, they do poorly. I asked him to explain, and this is what he said. From what I have seen, people go to prosperity churches because there is something in their lives that is lacking. Either they pray and get what they want and then leave, or they pray and do not get what they want and then leave. What they are really looking for is a relationship with God. Let me say that again. What they are really looking for is a relationship with God. I find that to be true. Yes, in religious science, we do teach about prosperity consciousness, about focusing on the positive and recognizing the good that we have in our lives, no matter how challenging it might be at times. Through our classes and through these Sunday topics, we also teach about having a connection or relationship with God. I hope you see evidence of that every week. What I have determined is that, and see if this is true for you, while I may have thought something was lacking in my life when I did find religious science over 20 years ago, because when I look back at my life then, there clearly was something lacking at that time. I was searching for a higher level of living, a higher way of being, a higher consciousness, even though I didn't know what it was called. I knew about the instructions to seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. But I didn't know what to ask for. Yet I had a feeling about what I wanted, a deeper connection with the divine that I couldn't find anywhere else in the physical realm. Eventually, through attending spiritual communities like this, through taking classes and workshops and studying universal principles, not only are my words better able to describe what I desire for my life, but the feeling has deepened, the connection is stronger. And that is what I ask for every day. More, please. I seek to have a relationship with God that is so strong, so permanent, so soul-binding, that I express God through all my words and actions, no matter the situation, and without thinking about it. I get a lot of opportunities to practice. And I want my life to become and be a prayer, a continual prayer. I want to know that every experience is successful because I rely on an infinite power for good. And through that relationship, I am provided with everything I can possibly desire. I seek to raise my consciousness and mental equivalent so that I demonstrate God working in and through my life as me, a child of the divine. Not with the motivation to acquire wealth and riches for earthly gain and ego's benefit. Although the more I have in that aspect, the more I can help others as well as myself. So why not? But to prove that the infinite intelligence that permeates all my actions and all of yours is ever present, ever faithful, ever serving. I want to eliminate all doubt and fear from my life. How about you? Get rid of all fear and doubt. There's an ongoing challenge. Based on the phone calls and emails I get each week, I know I'm not the only one who has them. So when we look at that human thinking, and we say, no, that's not what I want to experience, here's what you can do. Instead, we ask or declare what we would prefer to experience. We believe it is possible because anything is possible in the divine mind, in God. And then we do our part while we're waiting for life to unfold. While we're waiting to receive, we keep evolving. We tell fear and doubt to take a hike, and we focus on what we can do. We send that naggy ego on vacation, and we get busy. We spend time in gratitude every day, not just on the holidays. We focus on the good in our lives that we already have. And we welcome God into our hearts and minds as faith and love in every situation, for ourselves and for the people around us. This is not new information, people. Deep inside, you already know this. Our culture and others around the world know this. It's in our music and in our literature and all the major religions' texts of the world. Let me Charles Dickens story, Oliver Twist. Read a little synopsis here. Oliver is orphaned from almost his first breath when his mother dies in childbirth and by his father's unexplained absence. Oliver is meagerly provided for under the terms of the poor law and spends the first 8 or 9 years of his life at a baby farm. He is brought up with little food and few comforts. Around the time of Oliver's 9th birthday, he is removed from the baby farm and sent to a workhouse. Oliver, who along with other children, toils every day with very little food, and he remains at the workhouse for 6 months. Then one day, the desperately hungry boys decide to draw lots. The loser must ask for another portion of gruel, a thin, watery type of cooked cereal. The task falls to Oliver, who at the next meal comes forward, bowl and trembling hands, and begs Mr. Bumble for gruel with his famous request, "Please, sir, I want more." Did he get more cereal? No, not right then. However, he got sent away from the workhouse. That was a good thing. And while his life continued to go through one seemingly distressing challenge after another, and he kept being taken by unsavory characters, including his older half-brother, eventually he ends up with what's left of his inheritance, buys a nice house, has lovely neighbors, and lives happily ever after. And what started the change for him? He asked for it. He asked for more, please. We can do the same, and with better results. Because we can pay attention to what we're asking for, to our consciousness and our thoughts. Plus, we know how universal laws work. We give our desires focused attention, and we strengthen our relationship with God. That relationship is the key to everything else. I know this to be true for me. I know this is true about all of you. Here's what our Science Mind textbook says. All men seek some relationship to the universal mind, the oversoul, the eternal spirit, which we call God. And life reveals itself to whoever is receptive to it. When we learn to trust the universe, we shall be happy, prosperous, and well. We must trust first. I am so happy and grateful that I had my recent trip to the Northwest and to have been able to experiment with my divine partner along the way. As long as I stayed in the now moment, there was such an inner peace, and the mind chatter just went away. As long as I stayed conscious of my good and expressed gratitude for it, more good appeared. And as long as I lived in an atmosphere of faith and trust in the divine, there was no room for fear and doubt. My greatest desire is for all of us to know what it's like to have a direct relationship with the divine, as Holmes called it. It's what brought me into religious science, and it's what keeps me here. That's what we teach here. What I choose to demonstrate in my life. And what I would prefer that Science of Mind philosophy be recognized for throughout the world. We have a direct relationship with the divine. Everything else is just a bonus.